So we thank Hashem. We're able to learn every day. And this list of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. And everyone that needs a refuah shlema should have a refuah shlema. And brethren in Ukraine should be safe. Okay, we're going to start today. Chaf Hei Amud Bey is towards the bottom, not the Mishnah yet. It's like maybe it's like 11 lines up from there. Kade Yayin v'Kade Shemen. The jugs of wine and jugs of oil. It was the interesting ending of the Mishnah. Mishnah said that when it comes to Kodesh, people are trusted the entire year that their truma, that the oil and that the wine is pure. When it came to truma, they were only trusted around the season of the pressing. It was an assumption that everyone had toiveled their kalim and they were toiveled and they would do the pressing properly. But after that, you couldn't trust them that the whole year they were going to keep it tar. That was too much. Then it concluded, said that the jugs of wine, the jugs of oil that are midumas, that are mixed, usually it means a mixture of truma and kodesh. It says that they're truma and chulin rather. They're trusted on them at the time of the pressing, and before the pressing 70 days. So Gemara starts discussing this. It says Tana. It says Eina manam leal kankanam v'leal truma. They're not trusted for the barrels. They're trusted for the wine. They're not trusted for the barrels. Gemara says 1 second. Kankanim demai. Which kankanim are you talking about that they're not trusted? I kankanim de kodesh. If it's kodesh, we said that they're trusted for kodesh the whole year. We can't have. Actually, we'll see later that you can. But if they're trusted to keep the kodesh pure, then they should be trusted to keep the barrels pure. How would it become tameh? Because they touched it. So if they're not touching the wine, they're not touching the barrels, they should be trusted. Elakan kanem de truma. We're dealing with truma. Well, this is problematic itself because pshita. Hasta truma le mehemen kan kanem mehemen. They're not trusted on the food, they're not trusted on the barrels, on the containers. Gemara says a very interesting answer. It says berikanim de kodesh b'shaya meisashana. Ubemalayim de truma ubeshasagites. It says like this. Very interesting. People are trusted for kodesh. They're going to be careful. Even if it's the whole year, they're going to be careful for the kodesh. Well, it's probably only in the area, in the vicinity of Yerushalayim, but they're going to be careful not to make it tameh. Let's say they've already removed all the contents of the container. So are they trusted to guard the container also, maybe for some other usage or something, or not? We say that they're not trusted to guard the container. It's only when the container is full that they're trusted. Once the container is emptied out, then we don't trust them that they're really keeping it pure. They don't sense the severity of it. There's no food in there. Well, maybe later. All of that maybe is not strong enough that they should keep it pure. The next point is that although we trust an amaretz, that's what we're referring to here, an amaretz, the common people, for truma at the time of the pressing, but we can't use their containers. That means that the kohen has to show up at the field or wherever he's getting the truma, and he comes with his own containers, and he lets the amaretz pour it in from the big vat into the truma. He takes it in the kohen's containers. The kohen takes it in his own containers. We can't take it in their containers.
Excuse me. This concept is amaretz, and it's not a chaver.
Right. No, it's not a chaver. Yeah. Is a huge issue.
The Amar is with his foods, and we're concerned that he's going to put his foods in a tray in a tummy container.
We're concerned that his containers are tame. Yeah, the food is going to go in.
Didn't we say before that a Amar is trusted?
Yeah.
So as long as he says they get wet, what do you know?
So, problem is, let's say it's liquid.
Liquid, obviously.
So you would have to go over to get the oil and the wine with your own container.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Now it says Tanan kada yayin v'kada shemen amedumais. If it's mixed, meduma is a term that's used for a mixture of truma and chulin. Truma is food that only a kayin can eat. The rule is that truma becomes nullified 1 in 100. Not like regular kosher food, which is 1 in 60. It has to do with giving taste. Truma is batal 1 in 100. Now, let's say the mixture is not 1 in 100. So then all the chulin takes on that holiness of truma, and no one can eat it except for the kayin. It becomes problematic. So the Gemara says that for dimua, they were trusted only at the time of the pressing. Sounds good. My lab in the master truma. It must be dealing with truma. The only problem with that is that on the food, that should be good. But we also said that they're trusted on the barrels. You see, we said kada yayin v'kada shemen amdumayis ne'amanim aleim, that they're trusted on the containers as well at the time of the pressing. We were talking about kaidish, not truma. If it's truma, then they shouldn't be trusted. We said they're not trusted for truma. So how do you use the term meduma, which is talking about truma? Tell me that they're trusted with the containers, and also tell me that truma, they're not trusted with the containers. So that's a problem. Yeah, it's all regarding an amaretz. So Amri debei Reb Chia medumas de kodesh. They said in the yeshiva of Reb Chia that usually the word meduma is referring to truma, which would create a huge issue. But over here, it's referring to kodesh. And the containers are considered pure. It says, Miyaka dimua de kodesh, is that a term that you use? Dimua by kodesh? It's the wrong term. In the yeshiva of Rabbi Loi, they explained it like this, that it actually is dimua. Well, it's not really dimua. It's before the truma was removed, and it's really tevel. We're calling it dimua because what happens? You're supposed to take the truma out. If the truma fell back in, then it would be called dimua. Here, what he's doing is he's trusted on everything because he wants all of this to be sacrificial food. It's going to go to the Beis Hamikdash. So now he's trusted. But he didn't take the truma out yet. So it's considered tevel. Now, because there's truma in there, because he didn't take it out, and he wants to keep it kodesh, so it's considered already kodesh. I probably didn't make it kodesh yet, but he's going to make it kodesh. So he's trusted on the barrels, trusted on the containers, because it's going to be kodesh.
And that also might follow the 1/100th rule also.
Yeah. Would that follow the 1/100th rule?
I don't know. That goes into
Yeah.
a completely different territory.
Okay. So it's a mixture now of truma, kodesh, and chulin. It's all mixed up. The truma and the kodesh is called tevel. That mixture before it's removed. But it's because he's trusted on the kodesh, so he's trusted also on the truma in the barrels. Okay. The next piece says kodim legita shivim yaim, that he's trusted 70 days before the pressing. Very interesting. Amar Abaye Shmamina. Baya says from this we understand that dinahu the ilav the iluye arisa lemitrach agulfe shivin yamim mikame ma'atzarta. It's the responsibility of the aris. Aris is the sharecropper, the person that works the field, that takes part of the produce. It's his obligation to obtain the containers that he's going to need for the pressing 70 days before the pressing starts. That's his responsibility. We learn this from this Mishnah, that you shouldn't say like, oh my gosh, you don't have enough containers. So yes, that he should think about 70 days before. Okay. Mishnah now says, before the Mishnah, I have to introduce one problem. They didn't have any kiln, that's what it's called, right? The pottery, I think, in Yerushalayim. So all the pottery had to come from outside Yerushalayim. Now, in Yerushalayim, people were trusted more for Kodesh in this, but how far out would people be trusted that the pottery vessels were pure? So our Mishnah starts, what was the issue in Yerushalayim? The smoke wasn't good. They didn't want the smoke from the pottery. Min ha-Median v'lefnim, from the area of Modi'in, they're trusted, ne'manim al kli cheres. They're trusted on the pottery. The Mishnah is going to explain, well, the Gemara is going to explain that it's actually only the small pottery containers, not the large containers, not the big barrels. But once it's outside of Modi'in, that wasn't trusted. Now, you see.
So it can be closer and it can't be further away.
No, it could be closer.
But then it would be pretty much too close to Yerushalayim.
Oh, there's two parts of it here. One is who's making them, where they're coming from, and the other part is
smoke.
Do we trust them?
Oh.
So we're really talking about trust. You see, the rabbis made these extra decrees: who we trust, who we don't trust. These are all decrees. We don't know that it's actually tameh. So the rabbis made the decrees only in situations where it's possible to uphold them. If it was impossible to uphold them, then they couldn't make the decree. So, we do our best. It's very interesting. Yeah.
By distance, though.
Right.
And by
Just
reach.
Right.
Possibility.
This is a very interesting phenomenon in halacha, that even though God looked into the world God looked into the Torah to create the world, but there are certain times when you simply can't do the best halacha in the practical world. It's impossible to keep it. You would think that it has to match the world, and halacha has to match perfectly. It doesn't match perfectly. At certain times, at least the decrees, it would be impossible for us to keep it, so the rabbis relaxed it. Yeah. We had other examples. Yeah, it's an interesting concept. It's a philosophical concept. Okay, so Ketzad Hakeder, is that how you pronounce it? Hakeder is the potter. Shumaycher Kederis. Hakadar. What's the vowels? Hakadar. The potter. Shehu Meicher Kederis. He's selling his pots. Nichnas lefnim min ha-Median. When he enters within that perimeter of Modi'in, I guess it was like a circle. Modi'in can't be the whole Surah. There was a circle from Modi'in. They made
circle
that radius all the way around.
Unless
right.
There's another guy.
Yeah, so he goes into that area, and which is Hakadar, Vehin Hakederis, Vehin Aloikchen, Neman. Everyone is trusted now. All those containers, even though he made it outside, but when he comes inside, it's good. So he brings it inside, and then all of a sudden he's trusted. Yatsa, but if he goes out of the Modi'in area, Ein Neman, then he's not trusted anymore.
But you just said the circle you make around Modi'in. No, you make the circle by Yerushalayim, reaching the radius of Modi'in.
Right.
So that's why when we go after.
Right.
say, well, in the outside of that, so
Right. At
that's
the
it.
same radius of Modi'in all the way around, of Modi'in to Yerushalayim, that circle all the way around.
In other words, if it's 15 mil from Yerushalayim to Modi'in, you can go beyond Modi'in?
No, no.
So Modi'in
It's the
is
same
just
15 mil all the way around
around
Yerushalayim.
Yerushalayim. I'm following.
Okay, good. Yeah, we'll test you afterwards. Okay, Tana. Modiyim, pamim kilifnim, pamim kilachutz. It's not so simple. Works like this. Sometimes it's considered inside, sometimes it's considered outside. It depends on what's happening. Goes like this. Ketzad. Well, how did you pronounce it? Kadar, right? Kadar yoitze v'chaver nichnas. The kadar is on his way out. Here, what we're talking about, Modi'in itself. You see, what about Modi'in itself? We just said up until Modi'in. What about Modi'in itself? So if you have a kadar, the potter, he's inside Modi'in, and he's on his way out. He's leaving, and then you have a chaver that's on his way in. So his last chance to purchase these utensils is right now. So we consider it that it's considered within the parameter, and he can purchase it, and those utensils is trusted that they're pure. Shneim nichnasim. Let's say both of them are on their way in towards Yerushalayim. So we tell him, why don't you just wait until you come inside and then you'll buy it. You're both going in the same direction. Once you enter in, you'll be able to buy it. So at that point, we don't say that he's trusted. See, it doesn't just depend on where he is. It depends on where you're headed also. Let's say both of them are leaving. So we say, what does the chaver need this for? If he wanted it, he should have bought it 10 minutes ago when they were back outside, within the area, within the limits. So all of that, in those cases, it's kalachutz, it's considered too late. For the,
very much like the mission of two people to the mikveh.
Yeah.
One is in there, but if they're out,
yeah. Here, it really has to do with the logic of the rabbis make decrees that in situations where we're able to uphold the decree, we're able to follow it. So in these situations, we're saying that he should have bought it before, or he'll buy it next. So we don't have to make any leniencies if he's going this way, or maybe we don't want to make leniencies because you should have thought about this 10 minutes ago when you were inside. Yeah.
So if we had back then like an app with GPS tracker,
Oh,
we
yeah.
wouldn't necessarily need them.
That's right. Amar Abaya. Abaya says, Afananami Tanina. Abaya is an interesting proof for this. He says, who was saying this? This was a brisa. He says, we actually have a source for this from the Mishnah. It says, Hakadar shemachars kederis v'nichnas lifnim min hamaydim. The kadar, the potter that sells his utensils, and then he comes within the area. That's considered like he's inside already. He's considered like he's inside. Taima, what does it mean? The reason why it's trusted is because we consider him as if he's inside. Hamaydim gufay, but if it would be in Modi'in itself, not within, but actually in Modi'in, like Muhammad, then he wouldn't be believed. Ema Seifa. Let's go further. It says Yatza. If he's on his way out, then he's Ein Neman. If he left, rather, then he's not trusted. Hamaydim gufay, but if he didn't leave yet, Neman, then he is trusted. So we have over here Diyukim Seisrim. We have contradictory implications, because one implication is that Modi'in itself is like inside. Another implication is Modi'in itself is like outside. So it says, you know what it must be? When I have a simple solution to resolve that contradiction, is by saying it depends. Are they both walking in? Then it's considered like outside. Wait till you get in. If they're both walking out, then we say you should have bought it before. It's considered like outside. But if the kadar is walking out and the chaver is walking in, it's his last chance to buy it. So we say that it's considered like inside. Okay. Tana. It's also taught in the Brisa.
Black Friday or something. Has to do with attention.
Let me in the door, let me in the door.
You have to know where they're going, and where they're coming from, what they're.
Right. So I heard Rabbi Wine, Beryl Wine. You were here when he was here? Yeah, but he was a rabbi here years ago.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
the.
Long time ago. I heard him one time saying that people call him a shilas. So he says if he doesn't know them, he doesn't like to answer the question because there's so many factors that it takes to answer a question. You have to know all those factors. So sometimes they say, Rabbi Wine, you don't know me, but I have a shilah. He says, if I don't know you, then let's just keep it like yeah, just leave it like that. Yeah, there's so many details over here. He wants to buy a pot. So, well, where are you coming from? Where's the guy going? There's a whole questionnaire before you can buy the pot. Okay, Tana. It says that he's trusted for these pots, if these earthenware utensils. It has only a dakin, only the small ones. Big barrels, he's not trusted only in Yerushalayim. And they weren't made in Yerushalayim, but in Yerushalayim itself, they were trusted that it was tahar. Yeah. Rashi quotes another pshat that he heard. He says he doesn't like it. Talking about maybe the lip of it is very thin instead of a small utensil. He said it doesn't fit with other things. However, what's considered small if you can hold it in one hand? Even if it can't be held in one hand, it's also considered trusted about that. We're buying it from an Amaretz. Rish Lakish says that's only if it's empty. If it's full, then it's a problem. Even if it's full. Rashi says, even if it's filled with liquid, that's not Kaidesh. I looked it up though in the Jastro, and Apkar Susai is his underwear. It says even if this barrel has his underwear in it, we still consider it tar. Yeah.
Type of striped garment.
Oh, is that what you have?
That's what
Uh-huh.
it says here. Right?
That's interesting. In the Jastro, it said it's under.
Greek, usually the Greek here.
Uh-huh.
We have to learn Greek. That's this.
I'll trust him for the Greek. Even though Rabbi Yochanan says that the vessel is pure, even if it contains the guy's personal contents, he doesn't say that the contents is pure also. It's only the container is pure. Well, it's a problem. How is the contents tameh and the containers is tar? It says Valta Tama, don't be surprised. Sure, a lugin mali mashkin, lugin tameyin to mashiva mashkin taira. Yeah, we mentioned something like this before. A klicheres, an earthenware vessel, protects food. If it's sealed, it protects food. However, the vessels that are inside it, it doesn't protect. It only protects the food. So what you're going to have is, remember, we mentioned that it's possible that the food is tahar and the container is tameh.
Yeah, with a corpse.
Remember with Beishamai, we had a discussion about this. Okay, so that's what we're saying now with Rabbi Yochanan, that even though it's a little bit odd, but nevertheless, don't be surprised because we have this in other situations where the food is tahar. Listen to this Mishnah. It says, Hagabayim shenichnasu l'teicha bayis. Tax collectors, Jewish tax collectors, they come into the house to search to see what you have. Maybe they want to take something because a person owes taxes of some sort.
like these are collectors, not the assessors.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's assessors or collectors. Maybe there were different types of taxes. Maybe they're both. V'chein haganavim, also robbers. Shechzira sakelim. They returned the vessel. It's odd. Yeah, they usually don't do that. But ne'amanim leima le'nagano, they're trusted to say that I didn't touch it. You're fine. You can use it.
The tax collectors don't return.
The tax collectors don't return. Yeah, it's hard for them to do tshuva. That's the Gemara talks about. And there's too many people there. It's still from one neighbor. Yeah. Okay. B'Yerushalayim ne'amanim ala kodesh u'b'shas regel afal truma. B'Yerushalayim the whole year they're trusted for kodesh, that everything is tar, and during the time of the holiday they're trusted also for truma. Like we mentioned before, that truma was not, they weren't always trusted, but around the holidays they're trusted that it's pure. The Gemara asks the question, Veramini, 1 second. What we just said is that a tax collector and a ganav and a thief that comes into the house are trusted to say, we didn't touch that. Veramini, we have a contradiction. When those tax collectors come in, habayis kuli tame. You can't trust anything. The whole house is tame. Like kasha. It's not a question. It depends who's together with the tax collector. Now we're talking about Jewish tax collector. If there's a non-Jew together with them, then at least the way one shot over here is going to go is that we don't trust them. Why? It says the Tanan. There's a Mishnah that says if there's a non-Jew with them, they can say, we didn't go in there. But once they went in there, then they can't say we didn't touch it. We don't trust them like that. Now, what's going on over here? So the Gemara says, when there is the non-Jew together with them, what happens? What happens now? Why is everything different? Well, Rabbi Yechon and Rabbi Lazar, there's a discussion, Rabbi Yechon and Rabbi Lazar. How's this works? Chadamar, one of them says, Emas Nachri Aleim, Chadamar Emas Malchus Aleim. We don't, sometimes the Gemara does this, it doesn't tell us who says what. It just says Chadamar and Chadamar. Rabbi Yechanan and Rabbi Lazar are Rabbi Lazar's Rabbi Lazar ben Pedas, right? So one of them says that there's a concern about the non-Jew himself. He may be a powerful person, we're going to see in a moment. And they have to make sure that they do a very good job when he's watching them. Other one says it's not the concern about the non-Jew, it's the concern that the non-Jew may inform the government that these tax collectors aren't really doing a good job. So that's the concern. But either way, if the non-Jew is there, then they're not trusted that they didn't touch anything. We assume that they did. And if there is no non-Jew, then we can trust them. They can say, don't worry, we didn't touch it. We didn't go through that, Okay, my binaya, what's the difference between the two interpretations? If they're concerned about the non-Jew himself, or if they're concerned about what he's going to inform the government, it could be naya nachri sheina chashuv. If there's a non-Jew, that's not an important person. So then, of course, they're not concerned about the non-Jew, but they're still concerned about that he may inform the government. So according to the opinion that says the concern over here is that he's going to inform the government, he's going to tell the king. So then they still have that concern. That could be anyone could inform on them. But if it's just a concern about the person, this guy was not a high-ranking official, so they wouldn't be concerned. Now it says, if the ganav returns the kalim, we can say, oh, maybe they're tar. We can accept that they're tar. Veramini, 1 second, we have a contradiction. The only thing that's tummy is the places where the ganafim went, not the rest of the places. Yeah. Problem with this is that the places that the ganafim went is yes tummy, and now we're saying that if they return it, they can tell us that it's tar. You're not telling us that it's tar now, saying wherever they went is tame. It's impure. It's a contradiction. Amar of Pinchas.
When they stole it or when they come in now?
They're returning.
It doesn't matter.
Because if they're returning it, and we're going to trust them that only the places that they're not in are Togo, but not where they are. That would mean we still don't know where they were when they stole it.
No. If the one brisa says that if you know their path through the house, the only things that are tamei are along their path. They only went into the dining room and to the bedroom.
How would you know that?
They didn't search the kitchen or whatever. Let's say, I don't know, yeah. Yeah, they're watching them. Someone saw them.
Oh, now.
Now, well, then they come back and they say, I'm so sorry. I needed something. I took your stuff. Here's it back. So we say that the Mishnah says that we try. He says, "Don't worry, I was perfectly tar and nothing's tummy." The Mishnah says we trust him. Right. Yeah, I didn't use it for milchik. Then the Brisa says that no, only the places that he went is tamei. So it's a contradiction. If you consider everything that he went is tamei, then how do you say that we don't consider what he touched tamei? That's the problem. Amar of Pinchas Mishmei Derav Kishasu Tshuva. It depends. The Brisa says wherever the Ganav went is tamei. The Mishnah says when the Ganav is returning it, we trust him to say that it's tar. Rav Pinchas is explaining that it's a different type of situation. The Ganav that's returning it, he's doing tshuva. If he's doing tshuva, we trust him on what he says. It maybe really was tar. So we're talking about when he's bringing it back. That's when we say that we trust him. When he's bringing it back, we say this is a good guy, and we trust him that it's tar. The other guy is not bringing it back. He's a real Ganav. And you can't trust him that he's they have like these old stories with the Ganav that had like certain standards. It's like, no, that I'm not going to, whatever the case is. I steal, but I'm not I'm not a shagets. Right. Yerushalayim nemanim ala kodesh. In Yerushalayim, he's trusted for kodesh. Okay, kodesh, things that are sacrificial food, is trusted. Tana, nemanim al klicheres gasim la kodesh. When it comes to kodesh, to sacrificial foods, the utensils, even the large ones, are considered tahar. V'kol kach lama. Why are we doing this? Why are we trusting in Yerushalayim? He says, "Sheinosim kivshenis b'Yerushalayim." This must be going back on everything. This is not just on the large vessels. Yeah, this is going back on everything. Saying this is going back on why do we trust in Modi'in and all of that? The problem is because they didn't have a kiln in Yerushalayim, so we trusted even to come from outside. Yeah, the introduction to this Gemara and then the statement that don't match perfectly. The comment of the Gemara is going on the whole Mishnah. Then it says, "B'shasa regal afala truma." At the time of the holidays, they're trusted also for truma. Minani mili. What's the source for this? I'm Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Shua ben Levi says, "Damakra." You have a pasuk. It says, "V'yosef kolish Yisrael ela'ir ki ish echad chaverim." Hakasav asan kolm chaverim. Is this talking about when they came to fight against Binyamin? Daniel, do you remember that? It says everyone gathered together like one person, friends. Chaverim. We're using the Mishnah term chaverim. That the Mishnah term chaver means that they're trusted on truma. We're looking into a pasuk, which means that they were friends, and we're saying that when they all gathered together, they're considered all chaverim. They consider that they're trusted on the taras. Yeah, this was when the Pelagish Begiva, where the people fought against Binyamin. Yeah.
What exactly happened?
What happened with the Pelagish Begiva was a person that was traveling, and he didn't have where to stay, and he got a place for himself, but he left his concubine outside on the steps, and she got raped, and then he didn't really care. It seems like he didn't really care much about her. Then he comes out and he cuts her into pieces and sends it to the different tribes and says, "Look at what the people of Binyamin did." Then they fought against Binyamin. Yeah, it's like a horrible part of our history, but it's in Tanakh. It's in the end of Shaftim. It's
right?
probably at the beginning of Shaftim. For some reason, it's placed
It's
at the
still
end, but it was like an
border a little
earlier
bit.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here he gives the reference to Song, to Hillel.
Oh, that's something else. The Yerushalmi has another source. There is another source where we don't need to quote such a pasuk. We have what did they quote over there?
122, 4.
What's the psalm that they
It
quote?
says, Psalm 122. What's that?
It says,
No, what's the-
quote, when the tribes went up there, tribes of Hashem.
Tribes went up there. That's.
No, but it doesn't give you. What's the English of it?
When the tribes went up there, the tribes of Hashem.
Yeah, shifte kisha'alu, shifte ka. How does the pasuk go in one of the Sheramalas? Yeah. Okay.
I think the reason it's put at the end is because it's introducing Shaul, who's coming from Binyamin. It's kind of like a contrast. Yeah.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
The chaos of not having a king, and then a king coming specifically from Binyamin.
That's interesting. Did you read that, Daniel? Did you read that book Ruth from the Magid series?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With you with the book.
Oh, we
club.
did it with the club. Yeah, that was one of the best books. But there was a contrast there between Rus and Shaftim, and this was like a huge emphasis that was like a rectification of what was going on here. Yeah. Her book on Eicha was pretty good also. She wrote also on Eicha.
Oh, I didn't read it. Okay,
Also a study of like the same similar, like she studies very carefully the text. Very good. Okay, so the Yerushalmi quotes Shasham olu shvatim shifte kaidas li Yisrael lahidas Hashem Hashem, that's another source for that everyone is considered that they're considered pure. Maybe because Eidas li Yisrael, maybe that's why. Maybe because it's like a testimony. Okay, very interesting. The Mishnah says, "Hapiseyach es chavisai, v'hamaskal b'isasei al gav haregel." What happens over here is that if someone opens up his barrel, he's going to sell it during the holiday. Now, even though there's Amayaretz that are coming in and they're buying and this, so it's a huge market and all of this. Nevertheless, we say that it's tar. And someone that also he begins making a big dough. He's going to break it up into pieces or whatever. So, al gav haregel means at the time of the holiday. So what happens after the holiday? Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Yigmar. Rabbi Yehuda says after the holiday we still consider it tar. And v'chachamim aimrim chamim le Yigmar. You can't finish it. It was only considered tar at the time of the holiday. Special leniency. The holiday is over, we say everything is tummy. Even though no one has touched it since the holiday. But it goes back. That was a holiday leniency. It goes back and we say that, well, Namar touched it. It's tummy. It's not the holiday now. Yeah.
Could be the holiday time. Everyone came to make that she has to be
Right. There's other factors there as well, but nevertheless, I don't know if we would say that if not for the fact that they actually decided that we're going to be lenient. There was a decision involved.
In those days, they didn't have like a hechsher company or something? I mean, because here we're talking about Kodesh and Truma, but what about?
They did
foods and
have-
everything else?
They had like Chaisame Shel Kohen Gadol. They had like the seal of the high priest. That meant that it was pure. No, I mean, but that was for the
And
base of English
foods-
itself.
and foods in the market. Since there was no
They had
process.
to, you had to know who you were buying it from.
Is this saying that it says it retroactively?
That's what, as if retroact. I mean, it turns out that it's not, but from now on, we say that what they touched before. So Yosef Rabami Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, Killa de Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Rabami and Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha are sitting. It's a killa. What is it? Is that in an entranceway? What is a killa? An attic? What?
He says courtyard.
Courtyard. Courtyard. They're sitting. What is it?
Yiddish, it's a hurdy, chabakila.
Oh, really? Is that the word for?
I think so, Yiddish.
Interesting. Okay. No one has ever told that to me in Yiddish. I never heard that word.
Never- it's not Yiddish.
Says Dr. Stein says a killer means a hernia in Yiddish. Chabakila. Okay. All right. From the patients that speak Yiddish, they came in, they told me. So Pasach Chad va'amar. One of them asked an interesting question. He says, can you leave it around for the next holiday? Just like put it aside. The next holiday, it will return to being tar because of that leniency that we have around the holidays. It's a very good question. Amar le'idach, the other one says, everyone was touching it. And you say that you're going to leave it to the next. Of course you can't do that. The Gemara says, 1 second. Until now, they weren't touching it. They were touching it the whole time also. We said that it was tar. So, whoa, 1 second. Until now, you see, he was saying is people are going to continue touching it. That was his concern. But he says, until now, Tumas Amartz Bregel Rachmana Tira. The Torah, the Eibishter, says that it's tar on the holiday. Elahashta Tmeihi, but now it's going to be tummy. Where it says, 1 second. Name a ketanai. Let's say that this discussion is actually a machlekes tanai. It says the Tani Chada, one brisa says, Yanichen el regel acher. Leave it for another holiday. Very interesting. Tani Yidach, la yanichen el regel acher. The other brisa says, don't leave it for the other holiday. It's exactly this discussion. Can you leave it for another holiday? The Gemara says, my love, Tanayi, it must be a machlekes Tanai. The Gemara says, like. You have to read this more carefully. It's not necessarily exactly what you think it means. Hadik Tani, Yanichena, when we said you can leave it for another holiday, that's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda that says that you're allowed to finish it. So for him, that it's pure after the holiday, so you can leave it for another holiday because you don't even need to wait for the other holiday. It was decided that it was pure before. In the brisa that says that you shouldn't leave it, that's the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan that says that it's tamei, so you can't leave it. Gemara says, "V'tizbra." Do you really think so? That Rabbi Yehuda says leave it for the next holiday? Or Rabbi Yehuda Yigmar Kamar. Rabbi Yehuda says you can finish it without waiting for the holiday. Why would he say you should leave it for the next holiday? You can finish it before the holiday, and it's considered tar. We switch the entire thing around. The one that says don't leave it for the other holiday, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that says you can finish it now. You don't have to leave it for the other holiday. The one that says leave it for the other holiday, we say that's the Rabbanan. Leave it for the other holiday, for the next holiday. That's the rabbis that say you can't finish it now. But next holiday you can. The Gemara says, my lo yanichena, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is a little problematic. He said, don't leave it for the next holiday. Why can't I leave it? I'm allowed to finish it now. I for sure could leave it for the next holiday. If I can finish it even when it's not the holiday, then I for sure I could leave it for the next holiday. The rabbis that say I can't finish it now, after the holiday, it's going to be tamei. They say I'm allowed to leave it for the next holiday. Rabbi Yehuda for sure would say you can leave it for the next holiday. He says you can even finish it now. Gemara says, she'ein tzarich lahanicha. What Rabbi Yehuda means is not don't leave it. He says it's not necessary to leave it. Excellent. Okay, fits perfect. Let's just see. It's in the Mishnah. It's in the Mishnah. We'll leave it.
Yeah, we can finish it.
Mishavar regel, after the holiday passes, it says Ma'avir and Altaras Azara. They go over the purification of the Azara. Because of everything that happened over the holiday, they have to toivel everything. On the holiday, we said that it was pure. After the holiday, we're not lenient and we have to be toivel. Is this specifically following the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda? Probably. I'm sorry, the opinion of the Chachamim. It sounds like it's Avar Regal Yom Shishi. Let's say the holiday ended on a Friday. Le'yam Ma'avir Mipnei Kavod Shabbos. It probably means on a Thursday. It means that Isser Chag was Friday. You had to get ready for Shabbos. You couldn't do all the toivel the kelim. They would do that after Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda Maflei B'Yom Hey. Even if the holiday was over already on the Thursday, they didn't have time. Sheina Kayin and Pniyim, they were too busy. What were they too busy with? Tana, the Brisa says, Sheina Kayin and Pniyim B'Laitzi B'Deshen. Because they had over the holiday, the ashes of the Mizbeach piled up. They had to take that out, and that took time. So they didn't have enough time to take all the kalim and put them in the mikveh. That's a huge job. Yeah, every once in a while I see the caterers, they have a big event, they have to get new dishes. It's a day's job. They put it in the mikveh. It's a huge thing. Do they use buckets with holes to put it in? I don't know. It's a big job. Okay, Kate said Ma'avrin Altara Sazara. What would they do? How would they purify it? They put in the mikveh all the utensils that were in the base of Mikdash. And they say, Hizaru. Be careful. You see, the problem is that who was doing this? Kayanim, of course. Otherwise, they couldn't get inside. They had to go inside and collect all the cave. Not all the Kayanim were considered chaverim. Some of them were considered ameyaretz. Even though they had a job in the base of Mikdash, it was their family, it didn't mean that they were a chaver. Vaimram said they would tell them, Hizaru shleitiga b'shulchan. The shulchan was one utensil that would mess up everything. If they would touch it, it would become tameh. The holiday was over, and then the bread that was on it would have to be replaced, and that would mess up that sacrifice. So that offering. So what we're doing is we're putting everything that's not necessary right now in the mikveh, but that was being used constantly. All the utensils in the base of Mikdash, they had a replacement. They had a second one, a third one, just in case. They should have another one just in case. All the utensils of the base of Mikdash need to be toiveled, with the exception of the Mizbeach Hazav, that's the inner altar, Mizbeach HaNachashos. The outer altar, we call it Mizbeach HaNachashos, even though it wasn't made out of copper, but in the Mishkan, it was made out of copper.
The inner altar was used
made
for
of gold, incense, right? And the reason is because they're considered the ground. Pasuk calls them Mizbach Adama. The Chacham say that because it's covered, it has a layer on top of it. So that, as the Gemara will explain, that for that reason, it's not going to be considered tameh.
Isn't it just a practical consideration, like how are you going to type with 30-foot?
Yeah, that's another problem. How to get it into the mikveh.
30-foot tall is back weighs 1 million pounds.
Right. Okay, let's leave this over here. Mitzvah Shem tomorrow. We'll get there. I'm not going to be by the Siyum. There's a Siyum tomorrow night across the street at Sharei Tefillah. I think it's at 8:00. Did Yitzi send out the thing?
You did?
It's a whole community Siyum.
In the evening?
Yeah, it's in the evening. Yeah. Well, someone posted it on the. Yeah, we're gonna join that one. Yeah, I'm gonna be away. So
8 p.m.
Who's teaching in your absence?
Rabbi Marlo will be here tomorrow.
Awesome.
Not tomorrow. I mean Wednesday. Tomorrow is normal. Tomorrow we'll finish the Masechta Mitzvah Shem. Seder Mayat. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
We'll,
Okay, Shkaya.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Shkaya.